I would like to start this by sharing a little bit why I'm doing this and why I've arrived at this being kind of an important message and teaching for me. And that is because of the history I've had with being in relationships and being on spiritual paths. I had my first spiritual awakening in 1987, which was a completely spontaneous one. I was just all of a sudden in my hometown noticing that I was very connected to nature. I was, for example, noticing and knowing before the birds were changing their direction. This was like a 3 or 4 day period where I was just very, very connected. And one sentence that came to me over and over was, heaven on earth is possible. Heaven on earth is possible. I didn't know what that meant back then, but I just took that note. And my second spiritual awakening was in 1988 when I was in a class and there was a relaxation exercise. And they said, oh, now just imagine golden light streaming in through your feet and into your body. And I actually had an experience where it felt like electricity was going through my body. And I was a bit shocked then in the class. And I kind of just tried to make it stop. And then later, for that whole year, in the evenings, I would always sort of go into that and then let it stream into me as much as I could take it. Later in shamanic journeys, I was told a message that I got in a shamanic journey was that this energy is my own being energy. We all have that somehow, and we can access it in different ways. And it happened to be through a relaxation exercise for me. Then in 1995, I met a man who was a guru and who had a following and who I was very sort of skeptical of at first, but I had many things that I learned from him. So I started to be in a guru-disciple relationship that lasted for 20 years. And I learned a lot from that. And I'm very, very grateful for that relationship that I've had. In that time, though, I figured out through his satsangs and his talks that he gave that he was sort of recommending that if you want to be a really good yogi, then it's great if you can be alone, as in not in a relationship. And I sort of heard that and I thought to myself, well, that's not what I signed up for. You know, I just want to be on the spiritual path, but that doesn't mean that I want to be a monk. And then after a few years of hearing that, I thought, well, I'll try it. I'll try it out. And then usually I would have like a 1.5 year period where I would be really alone and trying to be celibate. And then I would think to myself, Simon, you're in your early 30s. You're a young man. What are you doing to yourself? And then I would consider being in a relationship again. And then I would kind of sort of oscillate between being in a meaningful relationship or trying to be alone. And it kind of brought up a bit of conflict for me. And in 2009, I came to a point where I was thinking, well, this can't be it. You know, I mean, I can't be the first one to think of this. And, I probably won't have to reinvent the wheel here. And I did some research and I came across Tantra, but it was very difficult to find really good teachings on that. So it took until 2011 until I came upon a Tantra school in Berlin where I really knew this is amazing. This school is teaching a lot of theory. It has a lot of deep background in Kashmir Shaivism, in Tibetan Tantra. And it was about 90% theory and asanas and maybe 10% about sexuality. So very different than what we usually think of as Tantra being. And I went on this path, and for me, it started to really come together that you could have spirituality and be in a romantic relationship. In 2016, I started to have my doubts about my guru because I was starting to have experiences in sexuality that were definitely, for me, from my perception, something that was very divine. I would call it like the room would change. I would feel energies. I would all of a sudden spontaneously know things. I would feel very, very connected with my beloved. And then when I came back to satsangs with my guru, and he was talking about sexuality as something that was sort of base or not as high as other states, then I had to say, well, that's not my truth anymore. So I really kind of started moving away from my guru-disciple relationship. In 2020, I came together with my beloved, and we had a series of shamanic journeys in which I found out a lot of things about my guru-disciple relationship and the energies there, and also, yeah, some of the things that I really felt were true before I could feel again in that relationship. And for me, this is the safest relationship I've been in, that I've felt myself in. And a lot of it has to do with these four topics that I'm about to talk about, because they enable me to feel emotionally safe and energetically independent in this relationship. So for me, these 25, 30 years, this journey has really culminated in this truth for me that spiritual development, continuing with your personal development, and being in a romantic relationship is something that you can combine.
Come to soulrise.earth